The Once and Future Nerd is independently produced. If you're enjoying the show and would like to support us, visit onceandfuturenerd.com/support to find out how you can help. Listening to this show on an iOS device? Leave us a rating on iTunes, please.
Sir Brennan, do you know of any person of procreative age with a claim to the high throne?
In the great hall of the Elven High Council, deep within the White Forest, every eye in the room was fixed on Sir Brennan Williamson. The fate of Jordan relied on his next word. Would the Tarlohil intervene on behalf of House Gwernnatal against Ardel Redmoor? Or would they stand aside and allow human affairs to progress unimpeded? The law demanded a Gwernnatal heir. Queen Irana Regan, rightful heir of House Gwernnatal, stood beside the old general. In the tense, heavy silence that filled the hall, Regan studied the elvish faces in the room. Her wits, forged razor-sharp by the cruel hammer of experience, searched for a hint as to how to proceed. The interminable silence stretched on until...
No, we don't know anyone like that.
The Once and Future Nerd. Book 1, Princes of Jordan.
Chapter 8, Evil Untold.
Episode 1.
Regan had just turned down any possibility of elven support for her regency or assistance in dealing with Ardel Redmoor. Every eye in the room turned towards her. The faces of Brennan and Ylewin each showed surprise. The faces of the High Council were just confused, as they had expected an answer from Brennan.
Well then, there's little more to discuss.
Disappointment and desperation warred on Sir Brennan's face. His eyes searched the faces of the Elven Council, seeking some hint that they may change their mind.
We could retrieve House Gwernnatal's talisman of dominion.
The general looked again towards Regan, begging her to confirm.
It's far away, but we do know where it is.
Were you able to return that to us, it would be greatly appreciated.
And what of the High Throne then?
Talismans symbolize status, they don't confer it. You know that. Now, Sir Brennan, I wish you honor, glory, and fortune as you avenge your liege.
Wait, if I may, Taid, with greatest respect, surely order is best served by putting Traff down sooner rather than later. He'll only gain strength.
Well do I know it. Even as we speak, some younger elves, out of ignorance, malice, or madness, crop their hair short and whisper sympathies for the chaotic causes of the orcs. Nothing else sickens me so deeply.
To their shame, Ylewin and his family, you'll recall, knew of just such a young elf. In fact, she was currently minding Billy, Jen, and Nelson back at home.
But that is precisely why the law is so indispensable. If we forsake it now, what kind of example will that set?
What if there were none left to set an example for, Taid?
That will do, Ylewin. This is no longer your concern.
What? Of course it is.
House Gwernnatal is fallen, through no fault of your own. You're recalled from your post with commendation.
But House Gwernnatal is not fallen.
Its last living member is slain, and there are no heirs. What would you call that?
Ylewin looked towards Queen Regan, his eyes begging her to speak up. Regan shook her head nearly imperceptibly, and said nothing.
If that's all, then adjourned this gathering of the High Council is.
While the High Council was in session, our children from Pennsylvania remained in Ylewin's parents' house, minded and entertained by Ylewin's sister, Ylewdik. The young elf was playing her harp in the human style. was attempting to play her harp in the human style.
What do you think?
It's very beautiful.
My friends would be so jealous to hear you say that. We all like human music better than elvish music. So much more expressive, don't you think?
Uh-huh.
And it's so beautiful, the way you all scorn sexual gratification.
I don't know if we'd scorn it.
It's not really beautiful. People are super mean about it, actually.
Hey, if your parents are all so gung-ho about sex, how come there aren't a lot more elves around?
Egg-bearing elves can ovulate or not at will.
That's kind of the greatest, actually. Jealous.
I think we're plain sick of our parents telling us what's good, what's just, what's beautiful. They say we're naive. I say they're so scared of anything changing they've convinced themselves nothing can be other than it is. I mean, sure, there'd be sacrifices, but I can't understand what in Jordan everyone is so afraid of.
At this moment, Yellowdick removed a small silk pouch from her harp case. From within the pouch, she retrieved a handful of clumpy green leaves. She placed most of these leaves into her mouth, and then offered the rest to the group.
Anyone want a hit?
No thanks. I get tested for the football team.
A small touch on the shoulder from Jen reminded Billy of the likelihood of his returning to his football team in the near future. Had anyone asked, a word from Nelson would have invited speculation as to whether any vegetation from Jordan could even be detected by northeast Pennsylvanian drug tests, although nobody asked. Either way, Billy reconsidered.
Yeah, okay. Fuck it.
They're scared of it because you're harder to control when your mind's been opened. Don't trust anyone over 300.
As Billy was reaching into the silk pouch, the door swung open. Billy frantically tossed the pouch back to Yellowdick, who hid it in her harp case as Nia stalked into the room.
We're leaving. Thank our hosts and gather your things.
A short time later, the party was packed and ready to leave. The humans waited outside while Yellowin remained to discuss with his parents.
The High Council flays its own fingers to spite its hands.
Haven't you done enough to humiliate us today, Yellowin?
In Memlig, Lig can be translated as words, law, or reason, and I think the Memyet have the right of it.
Yes, you seem to have become quite fond of their kind.
There comes a point where the words of the law and the reasons of the law are at odds. And when we reach that point, surely reason must prevail.
And who presumes to decide when we've reached that point? Who claims the wisdom to know when the laws of our ancestors must be sacrificed on the altar of expedience? You? I should hope not.
These are my friends, and they need my help.
It is not the duty of a Kaltir to make friends with their kind. Walk away from this blasted ordeal now while you've still hope for a seat on the High Council.
I've seen Sir Brennan routinely risk his life to defend order and the law. What have the bureaucrats on the council done to preserve order lately?
Far more than you seem capable of understanding.
Speak not down to me. I understand more than you think.
And far less than you think.
You raised me to love the ancestors' laws and Galadin's order above all else, to protect them at any expense. And that's what I do now. I disappoint you. You disappoint me by not seeing that, by not trusting my intentions or the character you instilled in me.
It's not your intentions or character we mistrust.
You're too young to foresee the consequences of actions, and too childish to be grateful for things as they are.
I shall return to you when I have been proven correct, and embrace you with no bitterness.
And if that day never comes?
I suppose I'll return in shame and hope you can embrace me with no bitterness.
You're a damned fool, child.
Then you're a damned fool's parents. Until we meet again.
Yellowin briefly put a hand on each parent's shoulder, and then turned and left, making sure to hoist his head high until he was out of sight. As he left, Bart Loyal poured himself a drink. Oh, for nature's sake, with the blasted doors! Anyway, thus our party found themselves trudging down the main road out of the White Forest. All were in poor spirits, but none more so than Yilluin.
Dude, Weenie, your parents are harsh, man.
Not to mention racist.
They've only tried to raise me as best they know.
Yeah, but they don't have to be such dicks about it.
Maybe they do if stepping out of line is risky enough.
As they reached the gates of the forest city, the group halted. Brennan turned towards his queen and spoke urgently.
It's not too late to fix this, Your Grace.
Situation hasn't changed. I made a decision.
What about the stuff we talked about?
I took it under careful consideration.
Do you not understand where you've left us? We're lost, Your Grace.
None of it adds up. I can't figure out what the elves want. And I don't want to go into business with anyone unless I know what they want.
The High Throne is not a business, Your Grace.
Please.
I understand your wariness, but we've no options left.
Brennan, have you ever dodged a sword or a bolt and you have no idea how you knew it was going to be there? There's just a part of you deep down that knows when to duck.
That wasn't a fight.
It's all a fight. Every breath I've ever taken was a fight. I thought you'd understand that.
Suddenly, Yilluin's head snapped round, looking back into the forest.
Riders approach from within.
Hail, Sir Brennan!
Ry'y, Lord Commander of the Tarlohil, approached our party, flanked by a number of her knights.
Lord Commander.
Brennan fell to one knee and lowered his head. After a moment, the other humans followed suit, Billy just a fraction later than the rest. Yilluin did not bow, but held a fist to his chest in salute.
Taid, I deeply hope I did you no insult nor spoke out of turn before.
I hadn't noticed. Sir Brennan, I have something I would ask of you, warrior to warrior. A quest, you might say.
A quest? What is it?
That's when the party's given some objectives to complete, usually in exchange for some reward. But it's not important right now.
Indeed. I'm sure you're aware, Sir Brennan, that the Tarlohil have duties beyond simply protecting the elven realms of Eordan and upholding the White Forest Concordat.
They also seek out, protect, and preserve sites and relics of historical importance to the realm.
We've recently become aware of a relic of great importance, which we believe resides in an ancient burial mound not far from Freehold.
I've heard of this place. There are accounts of horrid blasphemies there, albeit of varying reliability.
Posterity has a way of exaggerating, but of course there is likely some danger. Either traps of those who built the mound or else bandits who have gotten there first.
Wait, but aren't you guys supposed to be like the baddest badasses in the world?
Ry'y gave Billy a long, cold stare.
It's a compliment where we're from.
Oh, surely. Mounted and on the fields of honorable battle, the Tarlohil are second to none. But of course our prowess would be somewhat wasted were we afoot, single file in dark tunnels. Not by much, of course. A knight of the wood is still a knight of the wood. But we were prepared to excavate the whole tomb to minimize the risk.
That would be a very costly endeavor.
Yes, we know. However, a small fighting force, used to fighting together, and with the right skills.
And what makes you think we have the right skills for robbing graves, Taid?
Pray let us operate with some level of mutual respect. I see the arms you bear, arms bearer. You've had the Mooncrest fashion of saber modified to straighten the blade.
Commander Ry'y drew her own saber now, the shimmering pearly white blade, ornamentally carved, curved sharply off in the shape of a half-crescent.
In a saber, the curved blade maximizes cutting area when swinging crossbody from horseback.
To demonstrate, Ry'y suddenly swung the blade across the front of her body. A fly fell from the sky, cut cleanly in half.
With a straightened blade, you lose nearly every advantage that design affords, except close quarters mobility. Vital if you wish to, let's say, covertly retrieve some wares from a
burial mound.
My thoughts exactly. Glad to see we understand each other.
Ry'y resheathed her sword as Brennan considered the elf's offer.
What sort of wares are we to retrieve, Taid?
We believe there is a chest which contains a very important document. That is what you shall seek.
No one likes a fetch quest.
Mind your company.
Now this is very important. Do not attempt to open the chest yourselves.
Then how do we know what's in it?
Nia and Regan glanced at each other briefly before turning back to Ry'y for the answer.
If our information is correct, the chest will be impossible to mistake for anything else. As I was saying, the document we desire is very old and very fragile. Mere contact with the winds of today may damage it beyond repair. And those who built the chest may have done so in a way that destroys its contents if it is opened improperly. I cannot have you take that risk, so you must bring the chest to me unopened.
That should be fine, unless one of us has an insatiable curiosity as a tragic character flaw.
That'd be you, Dorkstar.
Unopened. Say it back to me if you would.
Unopened, Taid.
Good. We're all understood.
I didn't hear him agree to this transaction.
I didn't hear him give you leave to conduct business on his account. Sir Brennan, will you do us this service?
Brennan tried to balance the need to maintain his appearance of command with his too keen awareness that the decision truly belonged to his queen. While pretending to consider, he caught a glance at Regan from the corner of his eye. Without a better idea, Regan raised her shoulders briefly before reluctantly nodding in agreement.
I would, but how urgent is the need? I only ask because we may need some time to study the maps and decide how our particular skills may best be tactically employed.
I don't expect a day or so to do any harm, but to encourage you to timely action, allow me to present some tokens of good faith.
At a gesture, 3 elves came forward from the rear of the group. From their saddlebags they unslung a number of rolls of golden cloth. They placed these reverently on the ground before Brennan and slowly unrolled the parcels. As they did, a glow rose forth.
Kaladin's great mercy.
Laying before them on the ground was a veritable armory's worth of gear. Weapons and armor shone in the sunlight. Each piece was a pearly white, yet seemingly reflected the entire rainbow of colors in the bright daylight.
I knew we were due for an equipment upgrade.
General Brennan was immediately drawn to an enormous battle axe. He stroked the shimmering blade devoutly.
This blade is of moon silver.
And the handle is white wood.
These are sacred.
A personal gift from my own armory, Yilloween. Will you take yours? I hear you're becoming quite the archer. Too long now you have hewn your shafts from peasant pulp. These are white wood, and fletched with the feathers of mountain eagles, so they'll fly further and truer. And the heads are moon silver, so they'll pierce deeper.
I do not deserve such splendorous gifts, Taid.
Yikas timoka hiliet.
For home and honor, Taid.
And for your chaplain, a consecrated whitewood staff.
I shall treasure this for the rest of my days.
We have shirts of moon silver mail, short swords, and half shields for your squires.
Jen was pleased to note that the elven idea of armor actually appeared to serve a protective role. Nelson, of course, was just excited to have new apparel. Billy, however...
Does it have to be so... glee-like?
Once again, Ry'y stared at the boy in confusion.
He's asking about all the colors.
Moon silver is tougher than steel and lighter than leather. The sheen is just a result of the forging process.
Only whitewood burns hot enough to forge moon silver.
And only the elves have whitewood.
And for you, arms bearer.
Ry'y gestured to a particular pair of bundles. Regan opened them slowly to reveal a twin pair of mechanical crossbows. The wood was covered in an intricate array of fine carvings.
Those are repeating crossbows.
Smaller versions of the ones we carry. More maneuverable in close quarters combat. Ideal for combat in, say,
a tomb.
The elf procured a bandolier of spare bolts, which Regan joyously strapped across her chest.
You'd trust us with these?
As I said, a show of good faith. Of course, there will be additional compensation on completion of this quest.
How much?
Gold is not everything, almsbearer. Sir Brennan, your help would free a great many of my riders to other tasks, and for that we'd be very grateful. I should think we could sort out your little orc problem.
What do you mean, missing?
I mean absent when she was meant to be present, missing, disappeared.
Do you mean to tell me you have not yet consummated your marriage?
There was no bride to consummate it with.
Antonin Mooncrest was explaining to his Uncle Julius how, after their wedding the previous night, Antonin was unable to find his bride Arlene. Understandably, the discussion had turned irate.
Forgive me, I thought you understood the importance of consummation.
Consummate yourself. Am I speaking Orcish, Uncle? She wasn't there. She's nowhere to be found.
You were seen quite deep in your cups last night. Are you sure you're remembering clearly?
Yes. I broke up that preposterous fight. I sentenced our man to be flogged. Redmoor said his would be hanged and requested I do the same to ours, and with displeasure I consented. That man died to keep this peace of yours.
Peace of ours. It was your idea as much as mine, so don't dare start down that path.
There is no more peace. I went up to the bedchamber to find it empty. No one had seen Arlene since she started dancing, and Ardel was the last partner she was seen dancing with.
So you suspect foul play?
You don't? I think he sent her away to Galadin knows what awful fate, just as he did his cousin.
That man's not a fool, despite what you seem to think. And only a fool would risk this alliance for petty cruelty.
Then suppose he truly lost the girl. How is that better? We staked our alliance on this man and on his sister's children by me. If he can't keep track of his sister, do you truly intend for his army to fight alongside ours?
Point taken, nephew. Let us go to the man, ask some sensible questions in view of the court, and see if we don't receive sensible answers.
And if we do not?
I suspect we will. But we can cross that river if we come to it.
If one is illicitly stowed away on the back of a vegetable cart, hidden beneath a burlap sack, the ride may be very disorienting. As such, two particular stowaways were aware of nothing more than the bumping of the cart and the occasional sounds of the road.
Oh! Hail Bryce Riverfell, esteemed commander of Freehold!
Morning, boys. Who's hungry?
With some dread, the stowaways heard these voices approach, yet could do nothing but cower and wait to be discovered.
What in Galadin's good grace?
And so Arlene and Gwen, for those were the stowaways, of course, found themselves huddled around a fire across from Bryce Riverfell, esteemed commander of the Civic Guard garrison in Freehold.
Well?
Arlene and Gwen looked towards each other, but otherwise sat in silence, either unwilling to speak, or else just plain unsure of what to say.
I'm giving you a chance to explain yourselves.
Pray forgive us, my lord. We didn't steal nothing. We're just two simple farm girls who were hiding from bandits.
This is so much easier if you don't lie. Clarence?
A particularly big man tossed a sheathed dagger to Bryce Riverfell. The dagger, once belonging to Ardel Redmoor, had been confiscated from Arlene upon the discovery of her person inside the vegetable sack.
This blade's got the crest of House Redmoor on it. Also, I can see the damn wedding dress sticking out from under your robe.
Arlene's face reddened.
So the only mystery is what in Selburn you're doing out here, Maid Redmoor. Or is it Lady Mooncrest by now?
Lord Mooncrest and I said our vows, my lord.
General, milady. And congratulations, I guess?
Wait. If you're not a lord, then milady outranks you. She can order you to let us go, can't you, milady?
Yep. Unless Lord Mooncrest wants you back. And I can't imagine he wouldn't, seeing as he married you. In which case, his order would supersede yours.
What if she gives her order first?
Bryce shook his head sternly.
We have gold and jewels.
Which I believe the jurist and hangman would call evidence.
Silence returned as the crestfallen women huddled closer together. Bryce considered the two for a moment.
I know people who would have died for the tiniest sliver of a chance at a noble life. And here you are, born into that good life, trying your damnedest to throw it away. And I don't get it.
At this, Arlene rose and removed her heavy overcloak. Her delicate white wedding gown ruffled in the wind.
It's a beautiful gown, is it not?
Very, my lady.
In fact, I can't imagine anything more perfect in which to become someone's bride. But it's rubbish for literally anything else. One cannot go riding in silk or sing in a corset. All it's good for is looking beautiful for someone else. I don't pretend to know what it's like to be poor. Silk is certainly more pleasant than hemp. But wear it all your life, and it starts to feel like a noose all the same.
Take the dress off, please.
General, no. I beg. If you must, I will.
No, I'm not. Gods, in a tent.
Bryce Riverfell afforded Arlene all the proper privacy, as well as a spare shirt. The tunic was, of course, far too large for the lady, but as travelling garb goes, it was far less absurd than the wedding gown had been. The lady returned to Gwen and Bryce at the fire, and handed the silken dress to the general. He stared at the fabric for many minutes, then finally tossed the entire thing onto the fire. The silk ignited quickly.
Maybe I never saw you two.
General?
Or maybe I did. We'll be stopping at an inn tonight. I'll decide when I get there.
There's so much more I could tell you, General, if you'll hear me out.
Gwen rubbed her lady's arm comfortingly.
I'm sure. You know, I've been risking my life for 40 years. Hoping I could get some land, get a little something for myself. Maybe leave something behind in this world besides a pile of bones. If I'm gonna commit that dream to the fire like so much lace, I'd at least like some time to think about it.
On the road near Freehold, Queen Regan and her entourage stopped for refreshment and to plan at a roadside inn.
Nia, since you're the closest I've got to a scribe, put on the record that I don't like this tomb raid we're headed for.
Pixel boobs or gritty reboot?
There's very little else we can do, Your Grace. With respect, your decision at the council meeting made certain of that.
I understand that, which is why we're doing it. But I don't like it. For the record. Welcome, dearies.
The children froze in panic at the sight of the innkeeper, a woman whose appearance was remarkably similar to both the Madame Bailey who had sold them armor so long ago, and to the Madame Bailey whose brothel was the site of Jen's tete-a-tete with Sergeant McShane.
Don't worry, different sister. I checked. Come on.
The party sat at a table in the darkest corner of the inn to hide their intentions. Brennan unrolled a tattered map provided by Ry'y upon their departure.
Here it is, just over 7 miles south.
The Cairn of Evil Untold.
Let me see.
As Nelson leaned over the table to peer at the map, Jen shook her head in confusion at the name.
What's it really called?
The Cairn of Evil Untold.
No, but really, no one would actually call a place that.
No, guys, it actually says that on the map.
Seriously?
Let me see. Wow, it really does say that on the map.
Tourism board really shit the bed on that one.
Why would anyone ever go there? Why would they put it on the map?
There's definitely undead there.
So say some tales. The possibility of undeath is discussed theoretically among some, with no respect of the sacred. But I highly doubt it's ever been achieved.
No, No, if they bothered to actually call it the Cairn of Evil Untold, there is 100% definitely a high-level necromancer there with an army of undead minions.
All the same, it's where we must go to retrieve the chest for the Prologue.
I think I would like to not do that. Just like, none of that.
That would usually be right up my alley, but it's called the Cairn of freaking Evil Untold.
If it's too nerdy for Magic the Geekening over here, I'm out too.
Just the other day, you thought Templars of Discord was a good name for a troop of bards. This is surely not as bad as that.
No, this sounds firmly in the dark fantasy/horror genre. I'll pass. Nia, you should think about staying back too.
What? Why?
I don't know how to tell you this, but folks like us do not fare well in horror stories.
I can't afford not to go. If there's any unholy magic in the cairn, I'm best equipped to cast it out.
Ugh. Just don't split off from the group to cover more ground, okay?
And don't get undressed in front of any mirrors.
What? Why would I?
Oh, and if there's any doors you can't open, try saying different words for friend.
I'm not keen to break our fellowship in such times.
Nor I. Yet it must be admitted they are likely safer here.
Safer is different than safe.
I vote you guys go to the chest, and we'll stay here and
gather information. We're totally equipped to do that.
I was gonna say drink beer until we forget we've each killed a man, but yeah, we can talk to some dudes.
I dislike this plan, Your Grace.
I think we'd all prefer it if you came along. What'll it take?
You saying that the map is a joke, and it's not actually called the goddamn Cairn of fucking Evil Untold.
What's the matter? Scared?
Again, yes. Cairn of Evil Untold says it on the map.
We can drag them there by force, but why waste the energy?
Agreed. Take no offense, but it's not as if their fighting prowess is indispensable to our success.
Parting ways leaves me ill at ease as well. But they've been through a lot. Perhaps a night of harmless revelry would do their spirits good.
So be it. Your Grace, a silver to purchase supper for the road.
He stood, but turned to the children.
Remain aware of your surroundings at all times. You still need your wits about you. We'll return in 2 dawn's time.
The children all solemnly nodded their agreement at the old general. At this, Regan retrieved a small purse from her pack and handed it to Jen. A nearly imperceptible glow could be seen from the top, before it disappeared into Jen's handbag.
Sir Brennan is right. Awareness, at all times.
Do I have your word?
Some hours later...
1, 2, 3!
The children had given their solemn word, and then as soon as the rest of the party was gone, proceeded to spend an unbelievable number of coins on ale. Presently, they were all taking full wooden cups of ale, stabbing the bottom with a dagger, and drinking the ale through this dagger hole. I cannot fathom why the cups had perfectly serviceable openings at the top already. Humans sometimes, I tell you.
Woo! Shit, man. They make better beer here than I thought.
Of course they do. This is handmade artisanal beer. The recipe's probably a family heirloom. You're used to natty ice.
Do another? Nice.
I think I'm good for now.
Yeah. God, I'm not even drunk. I'm just full. I can feel it sloshing around in my stomach.
No, you can, huh?
A mischievous grin split across Billy's face. He turned deliberately towards Jen, raising his arms towards her. A smile broke her face too.
Oh, don't you dare.
I don't believe you.
No! This is your last chance. You're gonna be in so much trouble.
Heedless of the girl's warnings, Billy grabbed her by the waist and tossed her up in the air. Both laughed uproariously as Billy caught her, and then repeated the toss a number of times. I can't imagine why. Like I said, humans.
Oh, God, stop. I'm gonna hurl.
As Billy set Jen down onto the ground, the two looked into each other's eyes, and it was as if the rest of the inn had disappeared to them.
Shut it, dorkhole.
I love you.
Yeah, I know. I'm pretty awesome.
No, really.
She kissed him, with almost a hint of regret in her eyes.
I love you.
I love you too.
I missed fun. Do you guys remember fun?
How can we have fun when someone's always up our asses with swords?
Plus, murder. Not super fun.
A look of determination crossed Jen's slightly inebriated face.
So, let's see what we can do about getting home.
You mean to Pennsylvania?
Yeah, to Pennsylvania. Brennan and them clearly don't want to help. Maybe someone else can give us a clue.
Yeah, okay. Let me have one more beer and then we'll...
No, let's start now. I don't want to waste our chance. Nelson, you in?
Yeah, it's about time.
Really, dude? I always figured you just want to stay here.
Me too. It turns out it's just got all the same bullshit I dealt with in Pennsylvania. Worst part is, I realize that stuff is in all the books I love. All my heroes are racist, and everything sucks, so... let's get out of here.
Fair enough. Hey, yo! Has anyone here ever been to Pennsylvania?
Every head in the bar turned to stare at Billy. Had someone dropped a pin, the sound of its fall would have echoed. Slowly, and only after some time had passed, conversation resumed.
Think we need a slightly better plan than that.
Got a better idea?
You see those guys playing cards over there?
Who, the dweeby-looking ones?
Yeah. Nelson, recognize that thing on their coats?
That was the crest from the College of Armstrong Guard. Well, good eyes, Jen.
They're college boys, stuck in bumblefuck nowhere, a little drunk, probably horny, and desperate to prove how much better they are than everyone here, just like... Billy?
You penned douchebags during Christmas break.
There you go. And we're gonna mess with them the same way. Only instead of getting them to buy us beer, they're gonna give us information.
From what we gather so far, how we got here is still some pretty esoteric stuff. Nia didn't know anything either.
Look, I'm not saying I don't trust Nia, but her and Brennan and all those guys have a vested interest in keeping us here. Prophecy and stuff, people in here don't.
Okay, we can run that play.
Just don't hit anybody. Unless I say. Nelson, sound good? I mean, information can't hurt.
Knowing is half the battle. No one? Bueller? Really? No, nothing on that either. Okay.
I know that flick. Something about eating breakfast, right?
I quit.
Let's do this shit!
In his excitement, Billy threw his chair to the ground and stormed off to the bar to obtain more beer.
He got pretty close on that one.
Admittedly, same director.
You ever worry that we've been away just long enough to forget how much NEPA sucks too?
You ever live out a cherished fantasy only to realize that it wasn't your own and was made up by someone trying to keep you down? Because that's where I'm at.
Are we talking about porn right now?
God, I miss the internet.
Come on, Nelson. Let's go home.
In a roadside inn near Freehold, 3 young men sat around a table, entertaining themselves with ale and cards. On each of their robes was the crest of the College of Armstrong Guard. So engrossed were they in their own company that they did not notice the girl approach their table. She sat down without invitation.
Hi.
One of the young men appeared angered by the interruption of their game, but the other 2 set down their cards to look over their new guest with a good deal of interest.
Want to play a game with me and my friends?
Do your friends all look like you?
They have great personalities.
Yeah.
So, this my seat?
The Armstrong Guard boy seemed disappointed at the arrival of Billy and Nelson, and somewhat taken aback by their willingness to sit without invitation.
What's the matter? Don't want to make new friends?
We've got all the friends we need, dear. Shouldn't you be in bed?
It's a crime she isn't.
Oh, I can't take you anywhere.
What are we wagering, love?
Oh, this isn't a betting game. This is a drinking game. Your cup's all full?
You're gonna drink with us?
I am.
Drink what? Milk?
Jen gave the boy a smile, and then plucked the flagon of ale out of his hand.
The fuck?
Without a moment's hesitation, she put it to her own lips and drank. After a rather impressively short amount of time, she slapped the empty flagon down onto the table.
I assure you, homegirl can drink.
I've seen it, man. She's been drinking since she was like 10.
I don't know if you've ever been to the College of Armstrong Guard, love. We drink enough to affront the gods.
Well, what's the point of drinking if you don't get to do a little something less than holy?
The one boy, who was upset at the interruption of his game, rolled his eyes. The other two, however, seemed once more to be interested in their new friend.
What's the game?
It's a classification game. Should be easy for you college boys. When it's my turn, I draw a card and hold it up to my head so that everyone else can see it and I can't.
Jen drew a card from the top of the deck, and without looking, held it to her forehead. The card showed the pictogram of a queen.
Now, I give a category. You give me things in that category based on my card. If I have a 2, you give the worst thing in that category. If I have an ace, you give the best. Then I guess my card. If I'm right, you all drink.
If you're wrong?
I take a number of drinks equal to the difference between the numerical values of the card I had and the card I guessed. Got it?
No.
So I might say diseases you could get, and based on the card I'm holding, you might say...
A taste bud disorder that makes spinach taste like pizza bites.
I can gain or lose weight by thinking about it hard enough.
Doctor, help! There's this lusty barmaid stuck on my lap.
This sounds like a king to me.
Jen removed the card from her own head and looked at the front.
Wow, you guys have high standards. What would an ace have been?
You in my lap?
At this, Billy's muscles tensed as if he were preparing for a fight. Below the level of the table, Jen put a hand to his knee to restrain him from striking his new friend unconscious.
I was off by 1, so I take 1 drink. Who's next?
Outside of Guernatal Castle, Antonin Mooncrest was dining in private with his father. Marcus Mooncrest, you'll recall, suffered from a tragic affliction of the mind. He appeared to take a great deal of enjoyment from his bowl of stew. Antonin, ever the dutiful son, wiped the gravy dripping from his father's chin with a silk cloth.
Father, I need you to listen to me for a moment.
The father looked up from his supper. His eyes sat on his son, but never fully focused their attention on him.
Uncle Julius he has the cunning needed to rule. Know that your duchy is safe and your people will prosper under him.
At the compliment to his brother, Marcus's face split into a proud smile.
I have learned much from him. But I have also learned much from you. Compassion most of all. Sadly, sometimes a good ruler and a compassionate man cannot act in the same way. And I fear I know what I will always choose.
The door flap of the tent was pulled aside, and the aforementioned Uncle Julius entered the tent.
Are you ready, nephew?
Just a moment.
Antonin leaned close to his father to plant a kiss on his forehead. As he leaned in, he whispered,
I can only be the man I am. I hope it's a man you're proud of. After you, Uncle.
Julius exited the tent. Antonin lingered just long enough to pick up a chainmail glove off of the table and hide it under his tunic before following his uncle. In the great hall of Castle Guernatal, Ardel Redmoor was holding court over the evening meal. Around the table sat many of the principal players in his coup, including the threatened court philosopher and the bribed treasurer, as well as the usual collection of minor lords and sycophants. The high priest was nearly finished giving a pre-meal benediction, entirely oblivious to the fact that most had nearly completed their supper already.
Servants, in the hope that it will be sustained, and that the elderly among us will pass it through the bowels in a painless and timely manner. So be it, by God.
So be it, by God. The great doors of the hall swung open.
So be it by God.
Antonin Mooncrest was followed closely by his uncle. Their appearance created somewhat of a shock around the court. The pair of Mooncrests strode purposefully to stand before Ardel.
Lords Mooncrest, come to join us for supper?
Afraid we have slightly more dire matters to discuss.
How goes the search for my wife? I find myself worrying greatly over her.
I appreciate your concern, Lord Antonin.
We are, of course, doing everything in our power to find her, as I'm certain are you. I will not rest until my sister is returned safely.
Yes, of course. Anna and our houses would require no less from each other. Perhaps we could arrange a council early on the morrow to compare our findings thus far, lest one miss something the other might see.
Ardel glanced around the room, as if seeking an excuse. None came to mind.
Yes, that will do fine, my lord.
Why not convene the council now?
My lord?
Nephew, it's only reasonable to allow some time to...
This is my wife and your sister we're talking about. Why waste even a moment?
But of course time is required to
devise a passable lie?
A shocked murmur filled the hall.
Nephew! Forgive his manners, my lords. He is deeply concerned about his wife.
There is no information forthcoming, as Lord Redmoor has no desire for his sister to be found. He knows damn well what happened to her.
As he spoke, Antonin stepped closer and closer to Ardel, until by the last the two men were nose to nose. Julius was aghast, but could do nothing.
There are very troubling insinuations behind your words, Lord Mooncrest. Such implications could get you in trouble.
I did not come here to imply anything. I came here to formally accuse you, Lord Redmoor, in full view of the court.
Accuse me? Of what?
You spoke slanders and published libels about the late king, had him assassinated and usurped his throne, the highest seat in all the Orden. In your youth, you intentionally got your cousin and sister drunk out of their minds and convinced him to rape her. When they divulged this gruesome fact to others, you had your cousin killed, and I'm sure you've done some unspeakable evil to your sister, my wife, to keep her quiet as well.
Antonin looked around to the stunned faces of the court to make sure that all could hear him well.
For all these crimes, and for an overall turpitude of character which does me insult on general principle, I demand satisfaction.
Mock me, boy, and mock me well. Do not dare.
With a solid thwack, the chainmail glove flew through the air and slapped Ardel across the face. For good measure, Antonin Mooncrest wound up and gave Ardel a second slap.
Satisfaction, my lord. Will I have it?
You will forgive this wood sprite for taking some amount of joy from the blood which streamed from a gash on Ardel's cheek.
Or must I add cowardice to the already staggering catalogue of your vices?
Oh, you shall have it.
Superb. You have the choice of time and weapon. I will await your word in my headquarters.
Back in the tavern near Freehold, all involved were fairly inebriated. One of our new Armstrong Guard friends held a 4 of hearts to his forehead.
Advanced placement fart appreciation, but the teacher's kind of hot.
Remedial transmutation. Barlokir is lecturing, but Olaf's soft heart is grading.
Sounds like 4. Ha! Bottoms up, you sorry sods.
After the group took their appropriate libations, the deck was passed to Nelson. The boy drew an ace of spades to his forehead. Jen caught the boy's eye and gave a quick nod. Nelson considered his category for a moment before continuing.
Libraries.
The one in New York with the lions.
Oh yeah, I remember that one. From the movie with the groundhog.
Balokir's personal collection.
In the human realms, maybe. Nothing next to the archives and the Temple of Homes Forgotten.
He's right. Children of men aren't even allowed in there.
Sounding like an ace.
Of spades, dude. Fucking Motorhead.
Metal as fuck.
At this, the two boys from Pennsylvania made a strange occult symbol with their hands and shook their heads violently up and down. I can only presume they were very briefly possessed. Although it did seem to pass soon enough.
I want food. Anyone else want food?
Oh my god, yes, right now.
Kitchen's been closed nearly an hour.
Don't worry, I'll find us something.
Billy stood up with a good deal of purpose and considerably less stability and walked off in a random direction.
Quite chivalrous, that one.
Built like an ox.
That he is.
Not overly clever, though.
Jen grimaced at the insult, but managed to convert it quickly enough into a smile. After a second of willpower, the smile turned alluring.
Do you guys think you're clever?
I have moments of inspiration.
And, what inspires men like you?
Girls like you.
Like me? I inspire you? What do I inspire you to do?
Why don't you come over here and find out?
I'm not sure how Billy would feel about that.
Lose the idiot.
Again, the smile strayed towards a grimace before reining back in.
To be fair, I haven't seen any of you being as clever as you say you are. What do you say, Nelson? What test of wits would prove them worthy of the maiden's favors?
She's no maiden.
Now, mind your manners.
Ugh, crass.
Do any of you have any idea what's in those secret archives we're talking about?
Very good, Nelson. I think that's an excellent test of wits indeed.
Bjorn here claims to have read one, but only when he's good and tanked.
I made no such claims. I said I glanced at a page.
Well, what did that page say?
I don't think that's mine to disclose.
Tell her, you fucking braggart.
I don't want to.
God damn me, Bjorn, if you aren't the most selfish son of a whore I've ever met. This is why we can't ever have anything nice.
Aw, it's okay.
Jen dipped her finger into the foam of her beer and then licked her finger clean.
You don't need to be shy.
This gesture seemed to have an effect on the first traveller, but none at all on Bjorn. Apparently, it had an unintended consequence on Nelson as well.
May I be excused from the table?
You're howling at the wrong hound with Bjorn here. Selfish twat.
Sticks and stones, Martin.
Aye, sticks and stones indeed.
Say, where's that farm boy-looking friend of yours?
Sudden realization crossed Jen's face, and she immediately removed her finger from her mouth. She looked towards the hallway, which Billy had wandered through. Down said hallway, Billy had just found an open door. Being slightly inebriated, Billy chose to simply enter and announce himself.
Hello?
The room appeared empty. Billy walked in and looked around to be certain. He saw the typical collections of personal effects that one might leave in an inn bedroom. Also, he found a small barrel labelled salt beef. The lid of the barrel was open, which Billy took as an invitation.
Tits.
In many great tales, there is a point where, by a stroke of pure luck, the hero of the story happens to uncover a nefarious plot just before calamity would have otherwise befallen them. The hero thus averts the calamity and saves the day. Billy was no such hero. Instead, he stuffed a handful of salted beef into his mouth and as much as he could hold into his various pockets and fists. His search accomplished, he strode out of the room and back towards the main room of the inn. Had he been even slightly more diligent, or slightly less drunk, he may have noticed, on the bed in the room with the salted beef, was a pile of 20-sided dice, similar in design to the ones Nelson wore around his neck. Also, he might have noticed a pile of night-black robes, similar in design to those worn by the Templars of Discord.
Shit.
I'm told that when two humans first take each other as lovers, it is not uncommon for them to spend the first night of their love affair not sleeping at all, but instead becoming as intimately familiar as possible with each other's corporeal forms. Irona Regan, the erstwhile thief and future queen, despite being intimately familiar with the corporeal forms of many an acquaintance, had never truly known love in her adult life. This is not to lay that all at her feet. If you followed our tale thus far, you know very well why that is. But so it was. However, Regan did treat new weaponry the way most people treated a new lover. At dusk, she did not quite have the feel for the sighting mechanisms on her new crossbows. By dawn, she could fell a goose at 100 yards. Lack of sleep was a price she was happy to pay in order not to carry anything into battle which she did not know at least as well as she knew herself. Brennan awoke to grease crackling over a fire.
Breakfast? If we are doing this thing, let's get there soon, before I remember how stupid it is.
After breakfast, the party set off down a path through increasingly swampy countryside. Eventually, they reached a hill emerging from the swamp. In this hill was a stone door covered in moss. In front of the door was a very precisely organized stack of human skulls. Nia raised her new elven staff towards the door and muttered something briefly. The tip of the staff lit up in a blue glow. Under this illumination, runes were clearly visible carved through the moss and into the stone door. As she read, a crow emerged from the swamp to land atop the door.
This is writing from the old times, but it seems to have been carved recently.
I thought the old tongues of men were nearly all lost.
They are. This is the only dialect of which we still have knowledge, albeit still limited. There is one tablet which was partially translated into Old Elvish. It's in Balokir's personal library, in fact.
So you can read this inscription?
I remember very little, most of it from my earliest days at the college. I can make out words for torment and realm of friends. As Nelson said, by Galadin, I do not know how that boy knows all that he does.
I do not understand.
This word means friend. Veined. Funny. I'd nearly forgotten that word. Reminds me of...
She stood tall and spoke the word louder.
Veined.
In a flutter of feathers, the crow suddenly swooped off the doorframe and landed on a particular skull within the pile. Lacking a better idea, and with some trepidation, Nia reached for that skull. The rest of the party drew all their weapons and trained them at the doorway. Nia pulled on that skull. It attached to a rather rusty chain. As the cleric pulled, the stone doorway grated open. The noises that door made, well, they were the noises one might have expected from a location named the Cairn of Evil Untold. When nothing immediately leapt out at them, Nia raised her glowing staff to light the darkness and entered the cairn. Brennan and Yellowin followed. Regan removed a small scythe and chain from her pack and secured the rusty chain in the open position before bringing up the rear. As they entered the cairn, the party lit torches. The firelight revealed that the passage they trod was lined with eerie statues, human-shaped figures kneeling in prayer. However, none of these statues was in possession of a head, and each statue was bowed down to a small round stone. The passageway ended in a steep spiral staircase, disappearing downwards into the gloom. Without much of a choice, the party descended. At the bottom of the stairwell, the group found themselves in an enormous hall, so large that the combined torchlight could not reach the walls. The hall appeared to contain a number of long, narrow stone tables, and many more of the eerie, headless statues. As they surveyed the surroundings, their eyes suddenly caught a movement from one of the statues. In an instant, a crossbow bolt and an arrow were flying side by side towards the movement. A snake fell dead from the statue. As it fell, it knocked into the round stone by the statue. The stone rolled, or rather wobbled, along the floor to rest against the toe of Sir Brennan's boot. Brennan picked up the stone and blew off the dust. Once it was so cleaned, the eye sockets and a grinning jaw were apparent.
Oh, Galadin's mercy!
The group approached the statue to confirm their sickening realization that it was in fact a human corpse. The body was decapitated, burned, desiccated, and also impaled by 3 identical swords through the gut. They all looked back the way they had come, realizing how many other corpses they had passed.
Who do you think these men were?
Whoever they were, someone really fucking hated them.
What little is known about this place says it was the site of unspeakable crimes.
Were these the victims or the punished perpetrators?
They're victims now.
Let's find what we came for. I'd not stay here any longer than needed.
Walking along the hall, the party soon reached a stone dais. Atop this dais sat a stone altar. Atop this altar sat an unmistakably ancient chest.
This looks to be what we seek.
This too has the old script written on it, but I can't recall the meanings of any of these words.
As Nia inspected the ancient chest, the more militarily inclined of the party took a defensive stance. Brennan walked around to the far side of the altar, where he found a large table, more ornate than the rest of the hall. At this table sat 12 more bodies. These had kept their skulls. Based on the agony twisted plainly on their faces, however, one might have deduced that this was more a curse than a mercy.
Wait a minute.
Brennan saw the seat at the head of the table conspicuously empty.
The chest has already been opened.
Then close it and let us leave.
If it's already open, there's no harm in seeing what's in it.
We were given very clear instructions.
Not to open it. And we haven't. It's already open.
It could still be trapped. I've seen it before.
How long I've yearned for the chance to conduct research in an actual site of antiquity.
We're not here for research.
Let's get it outside, and then I'll open it with you. Deal?
Quiet!
At first, the sound of footsteps coming from the stairway was faint, only detectable by Yellowwin's keen elvish ears. Yet the sound grew louder, and grew closer, and closer. They all trained their weapons on the stairwell. For a brief moment, Brennan looked down at the skull on the ground at his feet. Suddenly the skull's eyes popped open to stare up at the night, and the rictus grin of death somehow widened.
Yeah!
As Brennan stomped down on the skull, the sounds of creaking suddenly came from all around them. Defiant of all natural and physical law, the statues slowly rose and turned towards the altar.
Oh, now what in the fuck is this shit?
With a sudden hiss, an army of snakes emerged from their walls. In eerie unison, they slithered towards the skulls and pushed them back towards the necks of their erstwhile owners.
Galadin, save us! The rumors! Undead!
An army of undead stood before them. Yellowwin placed an experimental arrow through the skull of one of them. The skull shattered, and the corpse fell to the ground, unmoving. Without a word, another stepped forward to take its place. For a tense moment, stillness filled the hall, until, in eerie unison, each corpse reached to its own belly and drew out one of the swords impaling it. The army advanced. Suddenly, battle raged in the hall. Bolts and arrows flew, and Brennan's throwing axes flashed in the dim light. And yet the undead continued to press forward. For each one that fell, another took its place. The battle looked increasingly hopeless, until Nia raised her elven staff. The blue light at the tip intensified as Nia gestured it towards the corpses.
Back! Get back, you foul abominations, in Galadin's name!
The light of Nia's staff halted the corpses in their tracks. As she swung her staff towards them, they retreated a step.
Can it be? Have you finally returned?
The voice emerged from somewhere behind the party. Brennan and Regan spun to face the new threat, but Nia's focus remained on holding back the undead army.
They will not harm you, unless I tell them to. Why don't you turn and face me, Nia?
How do you know my name?
How could I forget it? Vade.
Renaud?
Nia slowly lowered her staff. True to the words of the voice, the army did not advance any further. Nia slowly turned around. As she did, torches lining the hall suddenly sprang to light, illuminating the macabre scene. A man stood before them. Or rather, the remains of a man stood before them. Nia's hands trembled.
My God, Renaud! What have you done to yourself?
I have conquered death.
You've corrupted everything, and yourself most of all.
You know this thing?
We studied at Armstrongard together. A very long time ago, it seems.
Look on my works. Can there be any doubt of my genius now? And I have done it all for you, Nia.
Why don't we give you two a minute and we'll just get this chest out of your way?
Nia's hand shot to Regan's arm.
Don't you dare leave me alone down here.
He's your friend.
He was. Galadin only knows what he is now.
I am the greatest mage, technically, alive, and your intellect, Nia, is the only suitable match for mine. Were it not cased in so flawless a body, then I would not be tortured by my desire, but there you stand, and I am but a man.
Desire this, you unholy beast?
Brennan did what he does best when introduced to a new foe. He launched an axe at it. As the pearly blade spun towards Renaud, one of the seated corpses at the table suddenly lurched to life. With supernatural speed, an undead arm shot into the air and grabbed the spinning axe handle. Just as quickly, it flung the weapon back from where it came. Brennan needed to block the blade away with another axe to prevent it from impaling him.
Thank you, Cavan. I'd counsel against lame attempts at violence, you old fool. Should I perish, the spell I've placed on my army will compel them to follow their last orders in life and defend this tomb against any intruders.
He might be bluffing.
Yeah, I think so.
Regan lifted both her crossbows, each one now reloaded to 6 deadly bolts. She aimed them both at Renaud's chest.
What do you say, Stinky? I got 12 friends here, think you're full of shit.
Oh, yes, please throw the chance tokens with me and see what happens.
Renaud did not flinch. He barely so much as blinked his eyes, and his expression remained just as calm as ever.
Shit. Either he's for real or else rigor mortis makes for a great fucking poker face.
So, Nia, do you admit your love for me now?
What?
Do you admit your love for me?
My God, Renaud, you cannot possibly be serious.
I can see by your eyes how impressed you are by my arcane mastery.
I'm not impressed. I'm frightened and repulsed. Necromancy, Renaud?
Repulsed by your earlier error in passing me over? Frightened by the lustful feelings you're finally forced to acknowledge?
How's this for research in the field, Nia?
Oh, get stuffed.
I'll pass this time, thanks. Besides, he seems only to have eyes, well, maggoty eye holes for you.
Are you implying I will not defile myself?
No need to defile yourself, but perhaps by means of manual stimulation.
Oh, for Galadin's sake!
No mere erotic release could sate my love.
Let's just figure out what'll get this guy to back off and then get the fuck out of here. Men aren't complicated, Nia.
Not all men are the simple creatures you make us out to be, thinking only with their members. I desire on a deeper level. My lust is that of the soul.
You've forsaken your soul, Renaud.
Have I? Then whence does my love for you still burn?
Do you not realize what you've done here?
Of course I do. I told you it could be done by a skilled enough mage. Lesser men are only frightened of it because they are too weak to control it. Let me show you how sweet sin can be.
Necromancers pervert the order of Galadin and the most sacrosanct traditions of men for their own personal gain.
Not all necromancers... Oh, wait. Yes, that one is definitionally true, but no matter! For it was long before I mastered death that I committed the sin which drove my love away. I was young, naive, and blissfully besotted, and I committed the sin, which is vilest of all by the reckoning of women, despite their words otherwise. I was too nice!
Oh boy, he's one of those. Yeah, we're gonna be here a while.
Nia, Yilloween, Brennan, and Regan found themselves in a dank tomb known as the Cairn of Evil Untold, buried deep under a swamp, surrounded by an army of ghouls and snakes, and being lectured on the finer aspects of romance by a decaying, fetid Lich King.
Nia spurned my love because I was too nice, but I shall be vindicated. I know you loved me once.
Slightly infatuated, maybe. But that was before.
Ha! You admit it. You loved me and were scared of your desire, so you ran to men for whom you lacked any deep feelings. Will you come with me now, or must I destroy your companions?
This one's a real charmer, Nia. You let him get away?
Silence, you ill-washed strumpet!
Buy me a drink before you start with the dirty talk.
Renaud ignored the rogue and turned his gaze intently on Nia.
Do you admit your love for me, Nia?
No.
What else must I do?
It doesn't work that way, Renaud.
It works however I want it to work. I am the master of death, the greatest mage alive. If you will not recognize my magnificence, then you shall die.
Suddenly, the army of undead was advancing on the party once again. Moving quickly, Regan grabbed something out of her pack and threw it at the ground at her feet. Smoke erupted all around the party. Hidden by the haze, the party ducked for cover behind some pillars. The undead, who are generally not known for their tactical wit, continued shambling towards the spot where the group was last seen. However, when Yilloween loosed an arrow from behind his pillar, Renaud immediately turned and shot a puff of green smoke out of his staff in the direction of the arrow.
Nia, we need you to take care of these things. We'll keep Loverboy busy.
Regan signaled to Brennan and Yilloween.
Go back to Silverend!
Suddenly the air around Renaud was filled with a barrage of arrows, bolts, and axes. Renaud had no choice but to duck for cover, and in that moment Nia stood and aimed her staff at the army of undead. She closed her eyes tightly, and suddenly a beam of blinding blue light shot from her staff. Wherever it hit a corpse, there was a scream, and then there was nothing but dust. She dispatched a row of corpses in this manner, before Regan pulled the cleric back into cover. Barely a breath later, a green plume of smoke from Renaud passed through the space where Nia had just stood. From their cover behind the pillars, the party could see 11 of the 12 seated corpses in their officers' attire rise and draw weapons. Renaud turned to the 12th seated corpse in annoyance.
What are you waiting for, Maguire?
I don't believe there's sufficient justification for violence here. You're clearly the aggressor against a much more vulnerable...
Shut the fuck up, Maguire!
Nia took this opportunity to disintegrate another row of undead before taking cover once more. The battle began again in earnest, with the 4 living souls fighting the undead army and dodging the attacks from Ry'y. As they fought, they spoke, hoping against hope to distract, dissuade, or otherwise ameliorate the onslaught.
Perhaps my memlig is poorer than I supposed, but did he say his problem was being too nice?
Nice here, meaning do what I want or I'll kill you.
Missiles of metal and magic flew between the words.
I am only thus now, since I saw where nice got me.
Kindness performed in expectation of a reward. Isn't it truly kindness?
Brennan's axe swung toward Ry'y, but was intercepted by the skull of one of his minions. The Lich King paid as much attention to Brennan's blade as he did to his words. That is, none at all.
Was Frederick Johansson ever as nice as I was, Nia? Or was it just his member that impressed you?
Frederick? Oh, by Galadin, Ry'y! You've given more thought to that boy than I ever did. It was a freshman's tryst.
That's the second time you brought up someone else's member. Ugh. You sound a bit fixated on cocks.
One of the undead chieftains rushed at Regan, forcing her to stop talking and draw her sabers. The two fenced ferociously.
Nia, have you ever been with a mage who actually knows how to treat a lady? I could show you pleasures you dare not dream of. Granted, the putrefaction of my blood precludes tumescence, but I shall lay you down on ancient silks and shower rose petals on your lover's mound. They'll be dead, of course, for everything I touch now turns to a withered husk of its former self, but it's the thought that counts.
Oh, gods, Nia. How are you still standing despite your hungrily quivering loins? Ugh.
Don't dare mock me, woman, for it is by the word of your kind that I have fashioned myself thusly. You all say, why can't I meet a nice man? And yet here stands a nice man who has never so much as seen a single unclothed breast. You admit that you fancied me once, do you not?
Yes, fine.
And there were many signs that I was too foolish to see. I waited too long and was banished to the inescapable realm of friends. But I recognize my error now, and I can wait as long as I must, conquering death as I have.
Waiting won't fix this, Ry'y.
Then what will?
Letting us leave would be a pace in the right direction.
Not until you've heard me out. I was loath to offend your perfection with my awkward juvenile overtures. It's only because I think so highly of you that I waited so long. Does that not count for something?
It's not that you waited too long, Ry'y. It's that you proved the kind of man less frightened to profane all that's holy than to say, "Hello, Nia, may I buy you an ale?" This blasphemous horror you fashioned yourself into is far less excusable than any awkward overtures.
Is that all?
And now you're trying to kill us.
May I then?
May you what?
Buy you an ale.
No, you may not!
Hark, my friends, how the seductress speaks one way and behaves the other.
No, have you no idea what I value? What I believe in?
And if you fancied me, why did you never extend an overture my way? Why must the burden of approach fall on the man?
Oh, fuck your burden!
Regan's swords danced, dispatching corpse after corpse, and yet her mortal arms began to tire. The corpses did not. Nia sent a quick blast of light past Regan to buy her a moment's respite. A glance around the room, however, showed Nia that all of her friends were similarly tiring. Yilluin had spent his arrows and was fighting with his hunting knives, and Brennan's armor was dented in a number of new places.
God damn you, Ry'y!
Desperately, Nia turned her attention towards Ry'y. Her staff blasted a path directly to the Lich King's feet. He sent cloud after cloud of green smoke at her, but each one she deflected with a flare of blue light from the whitewood staff.
By the power of Galadin, Lord of all lords, and keeper of the most holy order.
Nia now advanced with her eyes closed. The green smoke hit the blue light. Some specks of green splashed past the light and hit Nia's face. They sizzled and burned where they hit.
I drive away this unholy perversion so that order may reign.
The green smoke intensified. a solid beam of green hitting Nia's beam of blue.
As dark flees the light of day, and coldness flees the sunrise.
Nia bled openly from her nose and the many burns on her face.
So does chaos retreat from the cleansing tide of order. Get back!
Nia's beam of light exploded, illuminating the entire room. As Nia and Renaud were each thrown off their feet by the impact, every undead minion in the room disintegrated under the blue light. Renaud's staff rolled from his stunned fingers, and Regan dove to snatch it away. He made little effort to stop her.
My dear Nia, I always knew your prowess alone could match mine.
And if it couldn't, would you have burned me with poison until I submitted to your desires? Would you have let your army slay my friends?
Can I truly be that repulsive? That you would rather be burned, rather watch your friends die, than love me?
Yes. Yes, apparently you can. If this is how you react to my rejection now, how could I ever feel safe with you?
I wasn't always like this. All I ever wanted was love, and I have always been denied it.
No, you wanted adoration. If you wanted love, you should have cultivated it within yourself, instead of filling yourself with hate.
What else was I supposed to feel every time Xavier would regale me with tales of his latest conquest? Why did women swoon over him and scorn me? How could those frivolous harlots be so stupid?
Now Nia stood.
And why is your ire directed at them and not Xavier? Did he ever tell you how he ended up in the infirmary with that broken bottle in his back?
Hightstown Jane attacked him with it. The girl was out of her mind. Everyone knew that.
Everyone didn't work in the infirmary. Everyone didn't talk to Jane before she withdrew from the college, or hear her tell how Xavier had his way with her, heedless of her wishes.
Her word against his? And Jane already proved herself mendacious.
And what was Jane known to lie about?
She would frequently attract the attention of some suitor, agree to meet him somewhere, and then never herself arrive, only to claim the next day to not have agreed to meet him.
And why do you think she would lie about that?
Women lie. How else would they manipulate men?
They're scared, you unfeeling clod.
Unfeeling? Have I not wept for your disdain? Feared your rejection?
You know nothing of fear. Did you meet the prostitute who was buggered bloody by a customer who didn't think he got his money's worth? The miller's wife, who confessed to a passing fancy for her brother-in-law and was struck so hard she lost the use of an eye? The miller and his brother remained on excellent terms, by the way. Countless girls beaten or cut when they refused the advances of a city guardsman. Girls taken ill while birthing the children of their uncles or brothers or fathers, and no one willing to lift a finger to help them. I remember all of these things, despite my best efforts. Believe me, I wish I could have forgotten, ignored, observed with a scientist's dispassion. For many years I tried to do just that. But the message is clear. Women will be hurt, and order will fail them when they need it most.
I don't see what any of this has to do with you and me.
And that's why you're a fool. My friends and I will be leaving now.
Is that chest trapped, Stinky?
You should take it. This one called Nia has wisdom and strength and compassion. She should study it. The new people deserve to know.
Know what?
Go. Now.
Let's not dawdle.
Needing no second instruction, Yeluine and Brennan each grabbed a side of the chest and ran towards the stairs, followed closely by Regan. Renaud and Nia's eyes remained locked for a moment longer.
When I was still a freshman, Nia, I derived formulae and potions which vexed even our most venerable professors. Would that I had derived yours.
I don't have a formula, Renaud. I'm a godsdamned person.
With that, Nia turned and ran after her friends. Renaud watched her run with hopeless fury, and the pillars of the chamber began to shake ominously.
I did say as much to you years ago.
Oh, eat a dick, Maguire.
Oh, so you've resolved not to learn anything from this then?
A stone fell from the ceiling, and then another and another.
Oh, that piece of shit.
Our heroes ran as fast as they could, the cairn crumbling all around them.
Make haste!
Galadin, help us!
Regan and Nia slipped through the outer door of the cairn and into the swamp, followed closely by Yilloween, Brennan, and the ancient chest. Not a second after they passed through the door, the entryway collapsed. The entire structure rumbled and shook, and the entire hillside fell into the surrounding bog. That evening, the party sat at campfire not far from the site which once held the Cairn of Untold Evil. Nia sat by the open chest. She had withdrawn an ancient stone tablet covered in carvings and was busily rubbing charcoal against a piece of parchment over the tablet to copy the script. The wounds on Nia's face from the earlier fight continued to weep.
Brennan, is that wine boiling yet?
Regan approached the cleric with a steaming mug of wine and an old rag. She bent to clean Nia's wounds.
This is gonna sting.
I know.
Nia did not cry out as Regan dabbed the boiling wine against her wounds, nor did she stop her work on the tablet.
So, can you make anything of that?
Any references we might have are surely so obscure that a full translation could take a lifetime. It's certainly worth preserving, though.
You think the kids are okay?
Galadin will look after them.
That's what I'm worried about.
You know, you should... Oh, never mind. Not now.
That was pretty, that was something back there. Kinda impressed.
Well, thank you.
You were only wrong about one thing.
And I'm sure you're about to tell me what that was.
All those women you treated, who died and got beaten and shit, that wasn't a failure of order. That is the order. Keeping us down is the point.
Not so far from the campfire, at that very moment, the swamp bubbled. From among the bubbles, a charred and desiccated arm sprang forth. It reached along until it found a tree root sturdy enough to grasp a hold of. The arm grabbed the root and pulled. Slowly, a body emerged from the muck. First the arm, then the shoulder and torso, and finally the head of Renaud Desprez. Which concludes... Oh, my! With all that excitement, I'd forgotten to tell you what became of the children. It's very exciting in its own right and absolutely crucial to the progression of our tale. You will recall that they were drinking in a tavern near Freehold with some new acquaintances, from whom they hoped to extract information. Late in the evening, Billy emerged from the back of the inn, his arms full of salted beef.
I am awesome!
On-site procurement, nice. Where'd you find this?
Some room.
Billy.
Oh shit. Wasn't your guys's, was it?
No.
You can't just steal people's food.
Door was open, so was the container. That means it's up for grabs. Party rules.
At least hide it, okay? The owner may have different ideas.
Hey, I went on a bold quest of discovery for you. I'm the Christopher Columbus of drunk food.
You're not the Christopher Columbus of drunk food. You invaded someone else's space and swiped their shit.
Can I talk to you in private?
On second thought, okay. Yeah, you are the Christopher Columbus of drunk food.
Fine.
Billy and Jen stumbled away from the table and towards the back of the inn, leaving Nelson with the 3 Armstrong Guard students.
Damn it, Bjorn. First chance I have for some ass in 6 months and you just can't stop being a self-centered shit.
To be fair, she was clearly more interested in me.
Oh, like Selberin she was.
Gotta pee.
Nelson stood from his seat. Or rather, he tried to. As he stood, he stumbled unsteadily. Only by leaning his arms heavily on the table did he keep himself upright.
Whoa.
You alright there, friend?
I don't feel so good all of a sudden.
Sweat shone on Nelson's brow. unusual in the cold air of the tavern. He wobbled unsteadily at the table.
Your friends can drink, but you can't.
Oh, you must be fucking joking.
That's not the ale, you idiots. It wouldn't hit him that fast. I think he's been poisoned. Help me with him! Suddenly, Nelson fell heavily onto the table, unconscious.
Who in Celebrin would poison?
The front doors of the tavern slammed open of their own accord. Every eye in the room looked to see who entered.
Gods have mercy!
Gallatin, save us!
3 Templars of Discord stood in the doorway. Panic erupted in the inn, with patrons running in every direction in an attempt to escape. Billy and Jen stumbled back into the room, leaning on each other heavily in order to stay upright. Sweat beaded down both of their faces. At the sight of the Templars, they froze.
Now you shall see the true face of God, and weep. The Stormbringer is nigh.
For additional information and bonus content, access onceandfuturenerd.com on your computer machine. New episodes are released every other Sunday. The Once and Future Nerd is written and created by Zach Glass and Christian Madera, and directed by Christian Madera. It is performed by
Rhiannon Angel,
Garrett Orman, Dan Dobransky,
Lily Drexler, Anya Gibeon,
Ian Harkins,
Paul Notice,
Frank Quares,
Julie Reed,
Gregory M. Schultz.
It is co-executive produced by Jess Kelly. Alex Story is an associate producer. The Once and Future Nerd is recorded by Brian Forbes at the Gallery Recording Studio in Brooklyn, New York, with additional audio engineering by Sam Palumbo. Foley, sound design, and mixing is done by Sandra Ramirez. It is edited by Josh Perot and Christian Madera. Theme music is composed by Tom Lee. Thanks for downloading.